James Dunham was a multiple murderer who, on the night of May 26, 1896, killed his wife, her family, and two of that family's servants in Campbell, California. At the time of his marriage to Hattie, James Dunham was not held in high regard due to his ongoing divorce from a young lady with whom he had recently eloped. News reports highlighted that he had neglected to provide financial support to his wife since their marriage. It was mentioned in contemporary coverage that he briefly ventured into a bicycle business in Stockton and worked as a foreman in his father-in-law's fruit orchards. Both James and Hattie were avid bicyclists and had embarked on a joint journey from Stockton to Sacramento in August 1895. However, their time in Sacramento took a sour turn when Hattie's jewelry was stolen, and investigators ultimately concluded that Dunham had pawned the items while she was asleep. More recently, Dunham, age 30, had enrolled at Santa Clara College with the intention of pursuing a 4-year course in the classics starting in February 1896, with plans to pursue a career in law thereafter. Ada Wells, a former schoolteacher, was married to Oscar C. Wells, who had retired from military service. In 1867, Oscar came to California seeking better health, but unfortunately passed away in 1883. The couple owned an orchard in Campbell. Following Oscar's death, Ada remarried, entering into a union with McGlinchey around 1889 or 1890. Colonel Richard McGlinchey made his way to California around 1888, where he embarked on a notable career in public service. Following his retirement from the Confederate Army, he assumed various positions, including that of Deputy Assessor of Santa Clara County. Colonel McGlinchey resided on a 54-acre orchard located roughly 1.5 miles south of Campbell. His household comprised his wife, Ada Wells, along with her 2 adult children, Hattie and James, as well as several servants. Hattie Wells, the stepdaughter of Colonel Richard McGlinchey, was previously engaged to Charles Dunham, who happened to be the younger brother of James Dunham. However, she ultimately chose to marry James in 1895, and they resided together with McGlinchey. Hattie, a graduate of the California State Normal School, had recently become a mother, giving birth to their son, Percy Osborne, on May 4th. On Monday, May 25th, Dunham withdrew his life savings from the bank, approximately $1,000, and the next day hid a bicycle in the brush by the Dry Creek bed, a few hundred yards from the house. Contemporary news coverage called these actions premeditation. On the evening of May 26, Colonel McGlinchey temporarily left the house to attend a meeting of the American Protective Association, accompanied by his stepson, James Wells, and one of the farmhands, George Shibley. It is believed that James Dunham, the husband of Hattie Wells, did not arrive until around 10 p.m. that night, as the other occupants were preparing for bed. Tragically, a series of horrific events unfolded thereafter. Dunham first gagged and strangled his wife, Hattie Wells, before fatally striking Minnie Schlessler, a servant, with a powerful blow from an axe as she rushed into the room upon hearing the commotion. A chilling holographic note was discovered near Hattie's bed, expressing her farewell to her dear mother, brother, and stepfather, suggesting that she had been given a brief period to prepare for her impending demise. However, suspicions arise that Dunham may have fabricated the note himself. Dunham proceeded downstairs, wielding the axe, and took the lives of Ada Wells McGlinchey, Hattie's mother. The coroner's inquest revealed that a single strike from the axe proved fatal for both Schlessler and McGlinchey. Nevertheless, Dunham continued to ruthlessly crush their skulls with several additional strikes. Following the gruesome act, Dunham meticulously went through the house, collecting all photographs of himself, certain documents, and 2 revolvers, a .38 and a .45. Interestingly, the sole remaining tintype photograph of Dunham was later employed in a reward poster. Meanwhile, 2 men, entirely oblivious to the silent tragedy that had unfolded, ventured into the orchard that very night with the intention of pilfering cherries. They later recalled how they discreetly observed the house, ensuring they weren't detected, and witnessed the lights extinguishing. 10 minutes later, Dunham emerged to smoke a cigarette while seated on the porch, unaware of their presence. Upon Colonel McGlinchey's return to the house, accompanied by James Wells and Shibley, it was around 11 p.m. or midnight. McGlinchey instructed Shibley to open the barn and provide hay for the animals housed within. As Shibley was completing these tasks, he suddenly heard gunshots emanating from the main house. Sensing danger, Shibley concealed himself in the hayloft, bearing witness to the unfolding events. As McGlinchey opened the front door, Dunham had been lying in wait. Dunham swiftly struck McGlinchey on the head with the axe, inflicting a glancing blow. Wells, following closely behind McGlinchey, engaged in a brief struggle with Dunham. Tragically, their altercation concluded when Dunham drew his revolver and fatally shot Wells, leaving behind a disheveled entry hall that bore testimony to the fierce and violent encounter. 5 bullets were recovered from Wells' lifeless body. Meanwhile, the impact of the blow to McGlinchey's head had been somewhat softened by his hat. Upon regaining his composure, McGlinchey mustered his strength and hurriedly fled through the house, eventually making his escape through a rear window. Along the way, he cried out for assistance, making his way towards the barn and a nearby shack where the hired men slept. Miraculously reaching the safety of the shack, McGlinchey barricaded the door, holding it firmly shut before Dunham arrived. Dunham's voice echoed outside, beckoning McGlinchey to emerge while declaring his determination to confront him. In a defiant response, the wounded McGlinchey refused, stating that he already had 2 bullets in his body and urged Dunham to put away his revolver. Dunham, without hesitation, fired 2 blind shots into the cabin door. Seizing the opportunity, one of the hired men, Briscoe, jumped out of the shack through a back window, fleeing for his life. Dunham swiftly pursued him, firing 2 shots that struck Briscoe. Meanwhile, during the brief diversion, McGlinchey capitalized on the momentary respite and began making his way back toward the house. However, he had only managed to cover a short distance of 20 paces before Dunham returned, delivering a fatal shot to McGlinchey's heart, ultimately ending his life. The only survivors of the tragic incident were the 3-week-old son of Dunham and Hattie, and a farmhand named George Shibley, who managed to hide in the barn during the massacre. Unaware of Shibley's presence, Dunham assumed that he was already inside the cabin with Briscoe. After checking the cabin and finding no sign of Shibley, Dunham entered the barn and climbed up the ladder. He struck a match, hoping to locate Shibley, who was concealed in the hayloft. However, Dunham failed to notice Shibley and eventually departed, riding away on a horse taken from the barn. The motives behind Dunham's actions remain unclear. According to an acquaintance of Dunham's, it is speculated that he may have committed the murders to secure his son's uncontested claim to the farm. However, it was later discovered that Colonel McGlinchey had an unmarried sister working in government service, raising additional questions and complexities surrounding the tragic events. Numerous individuals have faced arrest under the mistaken belief that they were James Dunham. In early June 1896, a man who was initially reported as Dunham requested food near San Miguel, only to be identified as a different outlaw. In 1897, another suspect was apprehended in Mexico based on a brief description but was subsequently cleared of any suspicion. In 1901, Charles Franklin Krill was arrested in Wichita, Kansas, and transported to San Jose under suspicion of being Dunham. However, the following year, Dunham was rumored to be living among the Navajo. A man arrested in September 1904 after a shootout in Arizona confessed to being Dunham after being informed that his injuries were fatal. However, in September 1908, a Texas man was mistakenly identified as Dunham. William Hatfield, the individual in question, was brought to San Jose but was released in November after a preliminary hearing. As time went on and leads grew scarce, many searchers began to believe that Dunham had taken his own life. Skeletal remains were examined from 1898 onward in hopes of confirming Dunham's fate. Various stories emerged over the years, including the discovery of bones in the Pacheco Pass area, some of which mysteriously disappeared, possibly in an attempt to claim the reward associated with finding Dunham. These examinations persisted for over 4 decades. Additionally, several alternate theories have been proposed but ultimately discredited, suggesting that Dunham may have been killed to divert blame from the true perpetrators of the crimes.